My name is Anna Mia Davidson, and I'm a freelance photojournalist based out of Seattle, Washington, and I primarily focus on long-term photographic stories that have to do with social change. The long-term book project is an important aspect of photography for me because it allows the photographer to tell a story in a long period of time, and it really, I feel like, pays homage to whatever the topic is that the photographer's shooting. So when I embark on a photo story, I don't often know that it's going to be a long-term project or that it's going to be a book project, but my heart and soul is all about going deeper into subjects, and so that oftentimes necessitates time and going the distance with a project and kind of taking it as far as you can visually. It comes from a place of wanting to tell stories and share information about the world in a positive way, almost hoping that it'll be contagious, that if I show something positive about people or places, that somehow would inspire more of that to be. Leica cameras and I go way back to the history of my being. I grew up shooting Leica cameras, and I learned how to use the rangefinder from a very young age, so it's very second nature to me. And I tend to gravitate towards my Leica cameras. I just do, and so even on assignment, I tend to use them. I'm super honored to be in Vancouver, BC, to speak at the annual conference this year, and it's an honor to be part of the Leica Society and to be immersed in sort of Leica culture and be around other Leica shooters. And I feel really honored that I was asked to speak here, because I think Leica and I have had a really nice symbiotic relationship over many years. Number one top shooting tip from my perspective is to research and plan a topic before you're going into a subject, especially if it's going to be a long-term project. Knowing the history of your project, knowing what you want to say, turning your brain on, and actually thinking with your mind allows you as the photographer to view things in a deeper way. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, make allies. Whenever you're starting a long-term photographic project, or really any photographic project, research who else is behind your work. Make allies, make friends. Also find out who is behind what it is you're trying to say and see if you can connect. Throughout my long-term photographic projects, I've always tried to make allies, whether it's in the countries that I've shot in, whether it's making allies with other photographers or people within the industry, editors, and people who could get behind my work and help me see it through was very imperative. And allies can even be organizations. If you have a mission around what it is you're trying to say photographically, if you have a vision for what it is you want to do with the camera and with the subject matter, and it's the long-term project, making allies that actually help you push your project through. Whether it's allies after you've actually created the body of work, people who are on board with what you're doing, or whether it's friends within the communities that you're photographing and people who can help take you into a deeper place. That's the kind of allies I'm talking about. Tip number three, anticipate. Photography comes a lot from instinct and gut instinct and anticipating not only where your story is going, but where the image is and where the photograph might be, and sort of being one step ahead of yourself. Anticipation comes from more of a core internal place in your body as opposed to just seeing through your eyes. The anticipation comes from anticipating what is next. What's your next move? What's the next move of your subject matter? Where's it all going? Tip number four, getting close. Sometimes that means just using those wide angle lenses, physically getting close, but also sometimes emotionally getting close, really understanding your subjects from an emotional place can help you kind of move physically towards your subject, both physically but also mentally, so that your imagery can get a little bit deeper. Tip number 5, sticking with a subject, even through moments where you feel stuck, where you want to give up, where you think, you know what, this just is going to go into a shoebox and just get buried in the bottom of my archive, forget it, moving on to the next. Stick through those moments of feeling like you want to move on and give it just a little bit more time and a little bit more energy. Come at it from a different angle. Try something new, but it's always through those stuck moments that something really magical can happen. And sometimes that literally means waiting 20, 30 minutes even after you want to flee the scene of a certain subject shoot. But more than that, it's really sticking with it through the long haul and through the long term. And that's when the work starts to become really about something more powerful and more meaningful, and time reveals that usually. Realizing when a project done is one of the hardest aspects of working on a long-term photographic project. And in the beginning stages of my 10-year photographic project on Cuba, I oftentimes felt like I was on sort of this treadmill, if you will, or some kind of a merry-go-round where I couldn't get off because I was thinking, wait, where do I exit here? When do I feel it's done? How do I know it's done? There was, year 8 to 10 where I felt like I could not make new imagery. I kept essentially taking my same images, and I felt like I felt done. And on top of that, I would even add, usually at the end of a project, you start to get a vision of some other project. There's something else that sparks a passion or an interest in you. At least that's what happened with me. And I was very clear that I was moving into the sustainable farm movement closer to home, and I wanted to focus on that. So that really came to me literally on a flight back from one of my last trips to Cuba, where I really felt done. So usually you know when you're done. You feel it, or the subject just keeps presenting itself in the same way, and there hasn't been a change in a long time. If I could leave you with one piece of advice or one philosophy of how I feel like moving forward as a photographer, we can, tread lightest on this earth, would be to come forward in a place of passion and heart, and that shooting is somehow about something. It's about something meaningful, either for you or something meaningful for the world or the earth, something that has to do with a place of caring and passion. And then the photography will just speak for itself.